जय यशोदानन्दना जय व्रज जनरञ्जना जय यमुना तीरवनचारी जय कुंज बिहारी जय यमुना तीरवनचारी जय कुंज बिहारी जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय गुरुदेवा 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 जय गुरुदेवा जयम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिवर जगचार्य स्तोत्र ऋषट श्री श्रीमद हिज डिवाइन ग्रेस एसी भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी शिला प्रभुपाद की जय। जयम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिवर जगचार्य स्तोत्र ऋषट श्री श्रीमद भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती ठाकुर महाराज की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद भागवतम की जय। Today we are reading from Canto 3, Chapter 29, texts 11 and 12. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमा श्लोके भक्तिर्भवती नैष्टिकी। Sure. Canto 3, Chapter 29, entitled Explanation of Devotional Service, texts 11 and 12. Madguna Shruti Matreణ मयि सर्वा गुहाशये मनोगतिर अविच्छिन्ना यथा गंगा भसो बुधाओ। मद्गुणा श्रुति मात्रेण मयि सर्वा गुहाशये मनोगतिर अविच्छिन्ना यथा गंगा भसो अम्बुधाओ। मद्गुणा श्रुति मात्रेण मयि सर्वा गुहाशये मनोगतिर अविच्छिन्ना यथा गंगा भसो अम्बुधाओ। मद्गुणा श्रुति मात्रेण मयि सर्वा गुहाशये मनोगतिर अविच्छिन्ना यथा गंगा भसो मुधाव मद्गुणा श्रुति मात्रेण मयि सर्वा गुहाशये यथा गंगां भसो मुधाव. Vaishnavis, Shruti Matrena Maya Sarva Guhashaye Manogatir Avichinna Yata Ganga Bhasambudhav Lakshanam Bhakti Yogasya Nirgunasya Hi Udahritam Ahaituki Avyavahita Ya Bhakti Purushottame. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Yes. Mat, of me. Guna, qualities. Shruti, by hearing. Matrena, just. Mai, towards me. Sarva Guha Ashaya, residing in everyone's heart. Manaha Gati, the heart's course. Avichinna, continuous. Yatha, as. Ganga, of the Ganges. Ambasha, of the water. Ambudhav, towards the ocean. Lakshanam, the manifestation. Bhakti Yogasya, of devotional service. Nirgunasya, unadulterated. He, indeed. Udahritam, exhibited. Ahaituki, causeless. Avyavahita, not separated. Ya, which. Bhakti, devotional service. Purush Uttama, towards the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Translation and purport. The manifestation of unadulterated devotional service is exhibited when one's mind is at once attracted to hearing the transcendental name and qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is residing in everyone's heart. Just as the water of the Ganges flows naturally down towards the ocean, such devotional ecstasy, uninterrupted by any material condition, flows towards the Supreme Lord. Please repeat. The manifestation of unadulterated devotional service is exhibited when one's mind is at once attracted to hearing the transcendental names and qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is residing in everyone's heart. Just as the water of the Ganges flows naturally down towards the ocean, such devotional ecstasy, uninterrupted by any material condition, flows towards the Supreme Lord. Purport. The basic principle of this unadulterated, pure devotional service is love of Godhead. Madguna Shruti Matrena means just after hearing about the transcendental qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. These qualities are called Nirguna. The Supreme Lord is uncontaminated by the modes of material nature. Therefore, He is attractive to the pure devotee. There is no need to practice meditation to attain such attraction. The pure devotee is already in the transcendental stage. and the affinity between him and the Supreme Personality of Godhead is natural and is compared to the Ganges water flowing towards the sea. The flow of the Ganges water cannot be stopped by any condition. Similarly, a pure devotee's attraction for the transcendental name, form, and pastimes of the Supreme Godhead cannot be stopped by any material condition. The word avichinna, without interruptions, is very important in this connection. No material condition can stop the flow of devotional service of a pure devotee. The word ahaituki means without reason. A pure devotee does not render loving service to the personality of Godhead for any cause or for any benefit, material or spiritual. This is the first symptom of unalloyed devotion. Anyabhilashita shunyam. He has no desire to fulfill by rendering devotional service. Such devotional service is meant for the Purushottama, the Supreme Personality, and not for anyone else. Sometimes pseudo-devotees show devotion to many demigods, thinking the forms of the demigods to be the same as the personality, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead's form. It is specifically mentioned herein, however, that bhakti, devotional service, is meant only for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan, Vishnu, or Krishna, not for anyone else. Avyavahita means without cessation. A pure devotee must engage in the service of the Lord 24 hours a day, without cessation. His life is molded that at every minute and every second he engages in some sort of devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Another meaning of the word avyavahita is that the interest of the devotee and the interest of the Supreme Lord are on the same level. The devotee has no interest but to fulfill the transcendental desire of the Supreme Lord. Such spontaneous service unto the Supreme Lord is transcendental and is never contaminated by the material modes of nature. These are the symptoms of pure devotional service, which is free from all contamination of material nature. Translation once again. The manifestation of unadulterated devotional service is exhibited when one's mind is at once attracted to hearing the transcendental name and qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is residing in everyone's heart. Just as the water of the Ganges flows naturally down towards the ocean, such devotional ecstasy, uninterrupted by any material condition, flows towards the Supreme Lord. Om Agyanatimirandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruvai Namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedant Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. So these two verses are actually leading us to the different categories of devotional service in the mode of, in the previous verses we talked about mode of goodness, passion and ignorance, and now the main points in this absolutely amazing purport and the translation. There's actually quite a few number of different points, and in the time that is given I will try to go over the key words which are given in the translation as well as the explanations given by Srila Prabhupada here. So the words that struck out when I was reading the translation and the purport was, and I'll talk about each of these individually, is unadulterated devotional service, attraction for hearing about the Lord residing in one's heart, the water of the Ganges flowing naturally, devotional service occurring without any interruptions, and it is without reason, and it is completely favorable. So when we look at these points here, there's a lot to meditate upon here. So when we talk about unadulterated devotional service, adulteration means contamination. And unadulterated means there is no contamination whatsoever. So contamination is coming from three levels: karma, jnana, and essentially dhyan. And those can mislead us to different kinds of yoga paths. So bhakti yoga is completely unadulterated, it's completely pure. And Srila Rupa Goswami actually gives a wonderful description of pure bhakti in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Nectar of Devotion, where he talks about Vaidhi Bhakti and Raganuga Bhakti. And as neophytes, for us it is very, very important to follow Vaidhi Bhakti. Vaidhi Bhakti involves following certain rules and regulations which are recommended in the scriptures, and through those following we can actually develop ourselves and purify us to be able to render devotional service uninterruptedly to the Lord. Whereas Raganuga Bhakti is at the highest platform, and that is spontaneous, where a person does not need to be told to follow these instructions in order to develop love for God. And that was exhibited by the residents of Braja and the gopis also. So for us to follow rules and regulations as given to us in a bona fide disciplic succession is extremely important to develop our devotional service. And the second part which is mentioned here is the translation is, we should have the attraction for hearing about Krishna's transcendental pastimes. In fact, Shravanam is the number one devotional principle given to us. And this was exhibited by Parikshit Maharaj. When he was told that he is going to pass away in 7 days, he gave up everything. And his entire senses of hearing, were completely dedicated to hearing the message being conveyed by Shukadev Goswami. And we also know there are so many other examples in our Vedic scriptures where great personalities, simply through the process of hearing, actually turned into pure devotees. We know about Mother Rukmini. She only heard about the transcendental qualities of Dwarkadhish, of Krishna. She had never even seen him. Simply by hearing about him, she actually developed an attraction towards him, and she made a resolution that she would only marry him, simply through the process of hearing. What to speak of seeing him, who is the epitome of all beauty. We also know our Srila Prabhupada himself, when he was with his spiritual master, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj. There were many disciples, and when Maharaj was going to begin his class, most of the disciples went away to look at certain spots in the pilgrimage area which were very attractive. But Srila Prabhupada stayed behind to listen to his Guru Maharaj. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj noticed this, and he said, this boy will do something because he has a tendency to hear. And that is very, very important. When we see these pastimes, we actually understand the importance of hearing. And my favorite prayers, amongst other prayers, are prayers by Queen Kunti, where she's mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 8. Lots of prayers, and I'm going to read a few here. She says, O Krishna, those who continuously hear, chant and repeat your transcendental activities or take pleasure in others doing so, certainly see your lotus feet, which alone can stop the repetition of birth and death. So this is Mother Kunti glorifying the importance of hearing about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then it is also mentioned in the translation how Mother Ganga flows naturally without interruption, and that is the way our bhakti should be. But we should not become complacent and think that now we have taken to Krishna consciousness, now my ride and my path is very smooth. In fact, it is the opposite, and I can speak from experience, where Krishna tests us even on our path of Krishna consciousness, how determined we are, how serious we are, and how diligent we are in following this path. There are a lot of obstacles which come, so it's not going to be as smooth as Mother Ganga flowing naturally into the ocean here. In fact, Mother Kunti says, it's a very, very beautiful verse here, and this was the first verse that I was taught by my Shiksha Gurus. In fact, 2 of my Shiksha Gurus are sitting in the room here, and my 3rd Shiksha Guru when I joined Krishna consciousness, His Grace Dravida Prabhu, who is known for his poetry. This is the very first verse I learned from him in his very poetic rendition. Tvai me nanya vishaya matir madhu pate sakrit ratim udbata adha gange vaham udanvati. Again by Mother Kunti. O Lord of Madhu, as the Ganges forever flows to the sea without hindrance, Let my attraction be constantly drawn unto you without being diverted to anyone else. This is a very beautiful verse which is comparing the flow of Mother Ganga, which is also mentioned in our translation here today. Another point which is mentioned is devotional service should be uninterrupted by any material condition. When I was meditating on this, I was thinking this is one of the hardest. Because when I come to the temple, the moment we enter the doors, there is a whole atmosphere of peace, light, joy, color, fragrances, everything, the whole environment around us is completely different. And we forget all our worries when we look at the beautiful form of the deities, interacting with the Vaishnavas, taking the Charnamrita and immediately tasting the sweetness on the tongue, smelling the flowers, and putting Nrsimhadev's stick on. Everything is just so amazing. The entire environment is completely different. And the moment we go back to the house and log on to the laptop, it's a completely different environment. Then you realize all these people and those millions of emails you have to answer to, it's a very, very different environment. And suddenly you can see, the stress level builds up. We forget to eat our lunch and dinner at the right time. Yesterday my mother was asking me, when are you going to eat lunch? And it was 5:30. I was frantically answering emails and reaching a deadline. And she was getting worried. And so that is the nature of the material world. We feel we have so many deadlines, which are true. Material deadlines are important. But our main deadline is a spiritual deadline. And that deadline is coming at the time of death. That deadline, we should understand, is coming closer and closer and closer. So we have to make every effort not to miss that deadline, because if we miss that particular bus, we will have to come back and take birth again and again and again. So all these material deadlines are important to feed ourselves, to have a roof on our head, to clothe ourselves. But the most important deadline is, are we going to make it in our path of devotional service? Or do we have to take birth again and again and again? Again, there is no loss there. Because if we do have to take birth again, we will start from where we stopped in our last lifetime. But we should be spiritually ambitious. I was talking to my husband, and I was debating with him that, material ambition is important in today's very cutthroat society. If we're not materially ambitious, we're going to be trampled by others, and we will fail in our career. That is natural. So I was telling him that being spiritually ambitious is very important to me. And he was looking at me in a very bewildered manner. He says, why do you want to be spiritually ambitious? That is envy and that is greed. And I was telling him, yes, greed is important. Srila Prabhupada has said lolyam is very important in spiritual life. So why should I not be spiritually ambitious? So I was trying to explain to him over lunch that spiritually ambitious does not mean I want to step on others' heads and be guided by pride, arrogance, and distinction. I refer to that as a PAD, P-A-D, pride, arrogance, and distinction, which, if not controlled, can lead you to a very false, egoistic platform here, which is not good. So I was thinking, how do I become spiritually ambitious? That is through following the principles of submissiveness, humility, and rendering service to Guru and Gauranga and the Vaishnavas. So spiritual ambitiousness means I want to render better service to Krishna. I want to render better service to the Vaishnava. But the qualities behind this service have to be very, very Vaishnava in their principle. Should be away from envy, greed, illusion. Should be guided by a sense of humbleness or humility and submissiveness. So being spiritually ambitious is important. At least I speak for myself here. Another point which is mentioned here, that qualities of Krishna are nirguna. And Krishna, it is mentioned that these qualities are not impacted by the three modes of material nature. These are like magnetic fields around us. The way I explain it to my students is, just think of a magnetic field around you. You cannot see them, but they're always playing around you. And this is how the three modes of material nature are always around us. Sometimes goodness is hitting us, sometimes passion, sometimes ignorance. And Srila Prabhupada has mentioned in several of his purports that you cannot be in a pure mode of goodness or pure passion or pure ignorance. There is always a mixture. And sometimes there is a combination of two and sometimes a combination of three. And again here Mother Kunti says, my obeisances are unto you who are the property of the materially impoverished. You have nothing to do with the actions and reactions of the material modes of nature. You are self-satisfied, and therefore you are the most gentle and are master of the monists. This is Mother Kunti's prayers, absolutely amazing prayers here. So we have to remember that the material modes of nature are created for us, and the original creator, of course, Mother Durga, is in charge of the material universe, but Krishna is not impacted by all of this. He has transcendental qualities, and Krishna has unrestricted and infinite qualities, which even if we were to describe them in millions of lifetimes, we will not be able to do so. Another couple of words which are mentioned here in the translation are avichinna, that means without interruptions, and ahaituki, which means without reason here. So, conducting devotional service does not mean we are bargaining with Krishna. That Krishna, I will do this for you, you give me this. That is a business transaction. And we cannot do business with Krishna. That is not possible. It has to be without reason. Nothing is expected in return. So when we are serving the Lord, we just want to pray to the Lord, please give me the dust of your lotus feet, and we ask for seva. We do know seva is very important in our devotional career. In fact, there are 5 S's that I always hammer my head, that we have to conduct all these 5 S's. Sadhana, seva, sangha, sadachar, and swadhyay. All 5 are very important. But my spiritual master lays a very important emphasis on seva. He says that if you're not able to do service and render service to the Vaishnavas, you will not make progress. So the element of seva is extremely important here. And it is so amazing when we see ahaituki, which means without reason. Mother Kunti says, I wish that all those calamities would happen again and again, so that we could see you again and again. For seeing you means that we will no longer see repeated births and deaths. This is the amazing high level of Mother Kunti. Forget about not having any reason to pray to the Lord. She is doing the opposite. She is asking the Lord, please bring us more calamities, more distress, because the distress will allow me to reach out to you. And so that way I will be able to remember you. This is a very high platform actually. So it takes a while to understand the high level or exalted nature of Mother Kunti here. Then one of my favorites here is by Srila Rupa Goswami, Anyabhilashita Shunyam. Jnana Karmadi Anavritam Anukulyena Krishnanu Shilanam Bhakti Uttama. This is in Nectar of Devotion 1.1.11, where it is mentioned that unalloyed or unadulterated bhakti, devotional service, has to be done in a favorable mood to the Lord. There were a lot of people, demons, who were remembering Lord Krishna constantly, 24 hours a day. And it is mentioned here in the purport, one should remember the Lord and render devotional service 24 hours a day. So Kans was also remembering, Hiranyakashipu was also remembering, but they were remembering in an unfavorable mood. So they were not regarded as bhaktas. Although they did achieve liberation, but they did not achieve the highest liberation. And here it is mentioned that pure devotional service should be free and devoid of karma, jnana, and other selfish desires. And this is what it is very, very important, where we talk about 3 kinds of yogic paths: karma mishra bhakti, and jnana mishra bhakti, and yoga mishra bhakti. Karma mishra bhakti will only elevate us to the celestial kingdom, and that is not our goal. Jnana mishra bhakti will allow us to merge into the Brahman effulgence, and yoga mishra bhakti will allow us to recognize the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the Paramatma in our hearts. But beyond that is bhakti, where we have a personal interaction, a loving relationship, uncontaminated by jnana, karma, and so forth, where we actually dedicate ourselves completely to the Lord without any cessation here. So this is very important to understand here. Without cessation, continuously. And when I was reading the purport, I was thinking, which are the devotees who were remembering Krishna 24 hours a day? And immediately, my favorite devotees came into my mind, the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. And I was thinking, amazing devotees. Srila Rupa Goswami and Srila Sanatan Goswami, who were Sharkar Malik and the Veer Khas in the Muslim king's court. And they gave up everything, each and everything. And they were given the orders by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu simply discover the pastimes of Shri Radha Krishna in Vrindavan, write about them, perform deity worship. And if they were not there, we would actually not be able to have all those elements which give us so much joy in Vrindavan. And they were conducting bhakti without cessation. In fact, they slept so little and they only had buttermilk maybe once a day. And they were entirely concentrated on glorifying the Lord here. And in fact, this is very interesting, avyavahita, which means interest of the devotee and the interest of the Supreme Lord are on the same level. And I was thinking of an example, and I was thinking when the battle of Kurukshetra was going on, Arjun's interest was not aligned with Krishna's interest. Krishna's interest was the battle has to be fought, the opposite side has to be terminated, and good has to triumph over evil. But Arjun, we do know, fell weak, bewildered, and so his interest was not aligned with Krishna's interest. But at the end of the Gita, Arjun came back on track, and his interest as a devotee was aligned with Krishna's interest, and that is why the battle was able to be won. So we have to align our interest with Krishna's interest. So what is Krishna's interest for us? He is a Supreme Father. He wants to see us back in his kingdom as soon as possible. In fact, it is said when we take one step, Krishna takes 10 steps towards us. So once we understand Krishna's interest, we have to align our interest with Krishna's interest. Then it is a very favorable situation here. In fact, here it is very important to understand here. It's a very good pastime. I was listening to a class on the glories of Lord Shiva just a couple of days ago. And this is recounted by His Holiness Giriraj Swami Maharaj. When he had gone to India in the city called Madras along with Srila Prabhupada, he met a certain personality known as Mr. Ramakrishna. And Mr. Ramakrishna was a very staunch worshipper of demigods, particularly Lord Shiva. So he came to Giriraj Maharaj and said, "You worship Krishna, but Shiva is supreme. Who do you think is supreme, Shiva or Krishna?" And Giriraj Maharaj argued with him, pointing through Shastric injunctions that it is mentioned Krishna is the supreme. And Mr. Ramakrishna did not believe him. And they kept on arguing again and again and again. And Maharaj writes, even after a few days, Mr. Ramakrishna called him over the telephone and started the entire discussion, who is supreme, Shiva or Krishna? And over the phone they were arguing again and again. So finally Maharaj said, I'll not be able to get across to him. So he told Mr. Ramakrishna, why don't you come after 2 days? My spiritual master will be in town. You can ask this question to him. And so Mr. Ramakrishna came and met Srila Prabhupada, who had come there. And we have a lot to learn from this, because when I think of myself in this position, I think I would get very impulsive and agitated and say, okay, Brahma Samhita says this, Skanda Puran says this, Padma Puran says this, I'll try to quote and show scholarly knowledge. But the way Srila Prabhupada dealt with this was amazing. He was very quiet, very composed, and explained the entire theory in a very simple way. And he said, Lord Shiva, you have to understand, he was telling Mr. Ramakrishna, there is a difference between puja and bhakti. Puja means we are worshipping someone with a desire to gain some profit, material profit or personal profit. Whereas bhakti means worshipping someone without a desire for any profit. So Shiva is worshipped in the mood of puja, while Krishna is worshipped in the mood of bhakti. So Srila Prabhupada did not enter into any controversy over who was supreme. He rather explained the different moods of worship of the different deities. And Mr. Ramakrishna, when he heard this, he was fully satisfied. Because Srila Prabhupada did not say that Shiva should not be worshipped. He just explained the moods. And of course, the puja is in a lower mode, while bhakti is in the highest mode. So this actually gives an indication how smart and how wise and how expert we need to be when we are preaching to people. It is very easy to be guided by lower modes where someone may disturb us mentally and someone may stick to the point that, no, I believe that this demigod is the highest, and there are so many different Purans who are in the mode of ignorance, like Tamasic Purans, and those Purans say, this demigod is the highest and so forth. And it is mentioned, those Purans are specifically created for those people who are in those modes. So they are satisfied and they can at least do some pious activities, and over the long run of thousands of lifetimes, they can actually understand the supremacy of Lord Krishna. So we have to understand this. Our Vedas are very, very complicated. But for us, Srimad Bhagavatam is the sole source here to understand the position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In fact, a great sadhu has said, very interesting, I was just getting this message yesterday, that personality is what we project and what we want to do, and we want to show ourselves to other people. That is personality. But character is what we are and what we want to do when nobody is watching. So this was a very, very profound message that I received from my own spiritual master. These are little quotes that we receive every single day. So that set me thinking about difference between personality and character. Personality can be great. We have a lot of people running this country who have so-called very high personalities. They are adulated and they are glorified, and people are awestruck by their, billions of dollars and so forth. But do they have character? That is extremely important to understand, the distinction between personality and character here. It's very, very important here. So I was going over all the elements that are talked about in practicing unadulterated devotional service. That means uncontaminated by Gyan, Karma and so forth. And I was going over elements for us to be practicing Vaidhi Bhakti. There are so many important elements we need to be concerned about, such as training in Krishna consciousness, following the due process, not following blindly, being determined and so forth. So I am going to share in the next 5 minutes just a few stories which Srila Prabhupada actually recounted to one of his disciples, His Holiness Suhotra Swami. And these tell you different kinds of, these are not real stories, these are just stories with morals which tell us how we need to follow these principles in order to advance in our devotional careers. So the first one is training in Krishna consciousness. And by the way, these are all stories by Srila Prabhupada himself. This story is called Close the Door. There was one time an employer who wanted to hire someone as a president of the company, and that was the big boss. So he invited 2 people for an interview. And 2 people came for the interview, and there was a panel in the interview room, and the first person entered. He opened the door, he entered, and he left the door open. And he was interviewed, and he gave amazing answers. And the interview was over, and he went away. The second person came, he entered the room. After entering the room, he closed the door behind him. And he also gave the interview, and he gave good, moderate answers. And he also left. Then the panel discussion asked the company owner, whom would you like to choose? And the owner said, although both are equally qualified, I will be choosing the number 2. And so the panelists were a little bit bewildered, because for them, the number 1 was slightly more qualified. And so the owner said, although both are qualified, the first one is lazy. When he entered the room, he did not close the door. Whereas the second one is not lazy, he bothered to close the door. So this is telling us that in our path to advance in Krishna consciousness, we may be qualified, but we need the appropriate training, the appropriate etiquette, and in this case, complete lack of laziness. This is extremely important here. And one example that comes into my mind is, without adequate training, no matter how qualified we are, we will not make much progress. And the example is, a person goes to medical school, reads all the medical books, gets a little bit of training in the labs, 4 years, but without residency, without the adequate training, he or she would not get the license and will not be able to practice. So going through the qualifications, getting an MD degree on a diploma is fine, but without the adequate training, the residency, the postdoctoral fellowships, you would not get a good job and people will not trust you. So training is very, very important in addition to qualifications. The second is following the process, and for us this is super important here, because we have to follow the process given to us through Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. And the story here is the yogi's wager. One time there was a great yogi who came into the house of a very rich man. And the rich man had a servant. And the servant came to the rich man, his boss, and said, "We have a great yogi visiting us. And this yogi says he can sit in the cold water of the river for 3 days without food and water, and he will tolerate the cold." And the yogi says, the servant's boss said, "This is not possible. It is the peak of winter and the water is ice cold. The yogi will die in like 2 minutes because of hypothermia." So the servant said, "Well, the yogi is there and he's planning to go to the river and, stay there for 3 days." And this boss said, "Okay, I will bet that this yogi will come back in about 3 minutes because he will not be able to tolerate the cold." And the yogi said, "I will show you that I'll be able to do it." So the yogi goes and sits in the water, freezing water, and comes out after 3 days. And the servant comes running happily to his owner, to his boss, and says, "You lost the bet," because the yogi was able to fulfill his wager of sitting in the river for 3 days. So this rich man said, "Oh yes, I have lost the bet." And the rich man had a very clever and cunning friend. And so the clever and cunning friend stopped him and said, "Wait, you didn't realize when the yogi was sitting in the river, across the river was a temple. And on the temple, on the top of the temple was a ghee lamp burning. And this yogi is so smart that through his mystic power, he was attracting the heat coming from that little ghee lamp and warming himself. So he was not feeling cold here. So in essence, that yogi actually cheated you. So because he was getting warmed all the time." So when the rich man heard this, he said, yes, you are right." So he went to the yogi and said, "I will not give you all the money because you lost the bet, because you took the heat from the ghee lamp coming from so far away across the river." And so the yogi was a bit disappointed and went away. And then when the rich man went home, he told his servant, "Please go and cook breakfast for me and bring it to me." And the servant used to cook breakfast, every single day. And the rich man is sitting in his dining room and he's waiting, and it's 1 hour, it's 2 hours. And then he goes to the kitchen and says, "Where is my breakfast?" And the servant says, "It's coming, it's coming." And so he goes back and it's another 1 hour, it's 3 hours, and the breakfast has not yet arrived. And now the rich man is livid. He goes to the kitchen and he says, "What happened? Why is it taking you so long?" And he goes in the kitchen and sees there is a little fire on the floor, but the pot which has the rice and the porridge is way up on the roof. And he says, Are you out of your senses? How will you cook the porridge when the fire is so far away?" And the servant says, "This is exactly what I want to tell you. That the yogi, how could he attract the fire when it was so far away?" And so the rich man actually came to his senses and he says, "Yes, I was misguided by my so-called cunning and clever friend. Thank you for showing me the correct process of understanding what is right and what is wrong." So it is so very, very important to understand how following the process is extremely important here. In the next 2 minutes, I'm just going to talk about how it is also important to be very, very determined in our efforts, in our Krishna consciousness. There was a little bowl of milk one day, and 2 frogs who were jumping around it happened to fall in the bowl of milk, which was a little bit warm. Now these frogs were on the verge of drowning themselves. And both frogs were trying to swim because they wanted to save themselves. One frog was swimming and swimming and swimming, and he got really, really tired. And he says, "I can't do it anymore." And he drowned. The second frog kept on swimming, and he says, no, there has to be a way. There was no way they were able to jump out of the pot of milk, but he kept on swimming much longer than the second frog. And as a result of his swimming and the heat generated, the milk got converted into cream and it solidified. And as a result of that solidification, the frog was able to climb out of that bowl. So the determination of this second frog, who resolved that I will try my best to succeed, is what we need to do in our devotional careers. We need to be determined as that frog and keep on trying. Even if we face discomfort and we are thrown out of our comfort zone, we need to keep trying here. Because the path of bhakti will have challenges, will have obstacles, and I'm sure all of you can agree with me, it is not smooth sailing here. It is said it is easy, simply eat, chant, dance, and take prasadam, but we are still conditioned, we are in the material world, so the modes of nature are not going to leave us. So we have to remember that we always need the protection of the Lord. We have to have the protection of the Lord, and His protection comes through Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. So I just wanted to touch upon these points here. Unadulterated devotional service, attraction for hearing, Krishna's qualities being nirguna, and as the water of the Ganges flows without interruption, without cessation, likewise our bhakti also has to be continuous, solely devoted at the lotus feet of the Lord. In fact, the best message is always remember Krishna and never forget Him. So this is very important to understand. Srila Rupa Goswami says there is a do and there is a don't in Nectar of Devotion. Do is always remember Krishna, and the prohibition is never forget Him. So with this principle, if we can follow this so-called simple principle, we have a very bright future in front of us in growing in our devotional careers, and hopefully making it to the deadline to be able to remember the Lord during our last phase on this planet. And hopefully by the grace of Srila Prabhupada and all the Vaishnavas, we will be qualified as a successful devotee in this lifetime. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. I'm happy to take any comments. I have very senior Vaishnavas sitting here. Any comments or any questions? Thank you so much for your time. Hare Krishna.